Welcome to Not Like the Others, the podcast that invites you to lean into curiosity. I'm your host, Elle, and I believe that by sharing our messy and unusual stories, we can discover our shared humanity and find connection in a world that often feels increasingly disconnected. Join me and my guests as we explore our unique paths and share our experiences with adversity, mental health, relationships, parenting, spirituality, and more. I'm so beyond thrilled to have Susanna Erickson, my college bestie, on the pod today. We met 19 years ago, almost to the day, at Pace University in New York City. She is a wife, she's a realtor extraordinaire, and she has a business in Atlanta, Georgia called Holistic Home Collective. Today, we're going to talk about how we navigated life in the city as teenagers, bonding over our shared dreams and our desire for fierce independence from our families and our lives in the South, drifting apart and then reconnecting after 19 years, and how incredible it is to redefine that friendship and catch up over the years on all of the healing we've done. So it'll be a fun conversation today, Suze. I am so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
So we met at Pace University in the Maria Tower dorms in
The
New York
quiet floor.
City. Yeah, on the honors floor, which, by the way, can we note that that was the only co-ed floor in the dorms? And I feel a little bit offended by that because it's just kind of was like, oh, the honors kids won't get into trouble.
See, I didn't even know it was an honors thing. They just said it was the quiet floor. We had a curfew. We couldn't, speak after 9 p.m. Well,
I forgot about that.
The funniest part was it was just a bunch of, vagabonds. Like pretty much all the craziest kids were on that floor.
Truly. Yeah. No, we were pretty crazy. I remember when I first went to Pace, I hadn't even toured campus. Like I literally applied to colleges in New York City, like because I wanted to be in New York City. I was like, I don't even care which one accepts me as long as it doesn't bankrupt me, because I had to pay my way through school. And my parents and I didn't even go visit it. So like the moment I stepped foot on campus to move in and do orientation, which I think I met you like moments after, those were like my first minutes in New York City as a resident.
Pretty much same. I applied to a bunch of colleges my parents wanted me to go to, or my mom specifically wanted me to go to.
Yeah.
And I was set up to go to Rollins in Winter Park, Florida.
Wait.
And yeah.
I don't think we've talked about this. Do you know
Really?
that Rollins accepted me too?
No way.
That's crazy, Suze.
Wild.
It was between Pace and Rollins.
Dude, that's insane. Yeah.
That is so
Crazy.
I don't think I ever knew that. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
And I'm sure there's so many synchronicities that like we just haven't even tapped into yet. It's wild. But yeah, just last minute, I was like, I'm not going. I'm going to Pace. Just out of, thin air, I changed my plans. And I don't know, a couple weeks later, I was meeting you.
Yeah, that is wild. Yeah, my idea to go to New York City was also kind of a out of the blue, like lightning struck me or something. I actually had planned to go to the Air Force Academy. Like that was my big dream when I was like from like 12 to 16. And because I was in the Civil Air Patrol, which is the auxiliary of the Air Force, and I grew up on the Space Coast of Florida. So I just grew up with like space and planes and everything, like I just loved aerospace. And I wanted to be an astronaut, but I didn't want to be a scientist. And so if you wanted to be an astronaut but not a scientist, you had to be the pilot. And most pilots of the space shuttle at the time were like fighter pilots. And so I was like, great, I know my plan. I'm going to go apply to the Air Force Academy. I mean, who knows if I would have gotten in, but I think my odds were pretty decent. But then I just like woke up one day. I think it was after a summer trip we did. We did a road trip from Florida to Maine, and we drove through New York City. And we were there for maybe 15 hours. Like we did a little bit of touristy things and then slept and then went on our way. And I was like, I must be here. And then a year later, I was like, I'm scrapping all of my plans. I'm just going to New York City.
That's amazing. I just feel like when the universe or God wants you to do something or be somewhere or meet somebody, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
I
agree.
It's crazy.
I agree. And it was like in short order. we met each other. Okay, but here's the thing. I actually don't remember the moment that we met because I think I was probably just like overstimulated.
Exactly. Because I don't either. But I do have photo evidence of us doing sumo wrestling at like do you remember they did that little fair in the basement?
Yes,
We got
at orientation.
yes. Yeah.
I
So,
forgot all about that.
yeah. So in my mind, I'm just, wandering around like a loser and you pop in and because I think like I needed somebody to fight in sumo wrestling.
Wait, is that how we met?
I
Were
don't,
we at orientation? I think that might have been how it happened.
yeah. It sounds
Because
about
I
right.
remember orientation day and they had those big sumo,
Yeah.
those were huge.
I know. I'll have to show you a picture for the for art.
I would love that. We should absolutely make that the cover art of this episode. So wait, okay, then let it go down in history that you and I met at college orientation in New York City because you needed somebody to fight in the sumo.
It sounds like our origin story, at least. Let's go with that for sure. And then, like, chaos ensued from then on.
Total chaos. I remember within a few weeks, we were on some pretty wild adventures. And I think that was something that really bonded us from the start was we were both Southerners who were really naive and ready to get after it and also really curious and adventurous, and I don't know, we both we both kind of had that like why not
Yeah,
approach to life.
we
And
did.
I think we still do.
Absolutely. And I feel like we were trauma bonded from the get go. We just didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
But that time was just so freeing. And, being in a big city like that, the world really is your oyster. You can do anything, you can be anybody. So I think it was a beautiful place to get to know who I was.
Yeah. I agree. I think New York was so attractive to me because I thought this is the place where anyone can be here. There's
Uh-huh.
literally a place for any single person in New
Yeah.
York City. And I think that was what resonated with me so quickly when I was there for such a brief period of time.
Yeah.
And what brought me back to it because I think you touched on it. We have I wouldn't even say like necessarily similar experiences of childhood. Some yes, some no, but like similar takeaways of those experiences. And I just remember thinking at 17, I'm so ready to get out of here. I'm so ready to not be suppressing all of these parts of myself and to see the world outside of Florida.
Yeah.
And if I couldn't, necessarily be, studying abroad or something, New York City is a pretty amazing place
Yeah.
to see the world, if that makes sense,
Absolutely. It's
Uh,
just a melting pot of all the different types of people that the world has to offer. And we
yeah,
met a lot of them.
a lot of them. I know. Well, I mean, one of my favorite stories that we talk about is like we both have a love for live music. And so that was something too that we were both like pretty immediately like, where are the concerts? And I remember we went to a Clips concert at the Knitting Factory and it was great. It was a blast, actually. I mean, I was always like a Clips fan light, in the sense, I think we both were probably like, yeah, they were on that one Justin Timberlake track, and the few others that are top 40 hits. And we ended up on quite the adventure that involved me consuming marijuana for the first time. That was how it happened. It wasn't at a high school party. It wasn't even at a college party. It was in a van with those guys and you and we ended up going to this like party where they were DJing and there was a bar fight and it was just like such a quintessential New York adventure and it all ended at like Ray's Pizza in Times Square, which is also quintessentially New York, and that is just like the most climactic evening ends in the most anticlimactic way and that you're just like cool, so I guess we take the train from here at midnight.
Love it. And then of course we couldn't say no to these guys, and they continue to reach out to you. And that just got weird.
Yeah, it did.
But I have a story that you might not remember. Okay.
I love this because actually I blacked out a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. We all did, right? Our first year of college, right?
Appreciate your memories.
Do you remember it was after some other event, maybe a modeling gig, maybe something else, but we were invited to an after party and we went to a pier and we got on a boat. But it wasn't until probably an hour and a half in that we started to like wonder, why is everybody talking about our feet? Do you remember that?
Wait.
It ended up being a foot fetish party. We were stranded in the Hudson River on a boat. Couldn't get off.
Wait, is it the pier? Is it the pier in like the 20s on the east? Was it the East River?
I have no idea.
I am having a really vague recollection, like where it was one of those boats. It's not like huge.
Yes.
It was like, it could maybe fit, I don't know, maybe like 150 people or something. Yes. But those little boat, not little, like but yeah.
Like a mini yacht.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Now that you're saying this, it's coming back to me a little bit.
Like, what do? You're stranded in the ocean with, a bunch of people.
Like, what did we do? What did we do? I don't remember. I think I just didn't care. Like, I was just like, whatever. I'm not engaging this.
You want to see my feet? Fine.
Yeah. Also, like, I don't even think my feet are that great. So
everybody's feet are great.
There's a lot of people make a lot of money off of foot content. I met a woman in New York a few years ago when I was there for business who was really cool. She and her husband were there for their anniversary. And she was like, I paid for this entire trip. They were from Manchester, England. She's like, I paid for this entire trip with foot videos. Wow. And I was like, excuse me? And she was like, they're not even sexual. And this will live in my brain forever. Like, even when I have dementia, if I have dementia and I'm like, my brain's going, this will be on recall. I promise you.
Oh my God.
But she was like, this person paid like $75 to $100, like a decent amount of money for a video of her in Doc Martens squishing blueberries. That was the video. Just like up close of the Doc Martens stepping on blueberries and watching them like squish.
What a time to be alive, man.
I would be lying if I said that I have never contemplated that, but
I think you should.
I just feel like it's not my vibe. It's not the energy exchange that I want to put out in the world personally. I don't judge it, but I don't know. It's a backup. It's a backup that's available. But no, I didn't remember that. I did not remember that story at all. And I'm so glad that you did.
It took me a while because once we reconnected, I don't know, it just came to me one day and I haven't thought about it in 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. That year that freshman year, we were inseparable. Like, we really did everything together. And then I transferred out of Pace and I wasn't even sure I was going to come back to the city. Kind of had kicked my ass. I'd gotten robbed on the train on the way to the airport, like on the A train on the way to JFK at like 4:00 in the morning. And that was during spring break. And, there was just like a lot of things that I was like, I don't know if I just had my ass handed to me,
Yeah.
And then I went back home for the summer and my family was living in Charlotte at the time. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not staying in Charlotte. And so I was like, I guess I'm going back to the city. And I remember I moved to Flatbush, Brooklyn, which in 2006 might as well have been China for anybody who lived in Manhattan, and then I wasn't at the same school either. So we just kind of drifted apart. There was no, I don't remember any kind of big falling out or anything. I think it was just that life was busy.
Yeah.
and we were kind of on these different tracks. And we always stayed in touch, like here and there on each other's socials. But it wasn't until last month when you came to Denver that we got to see each other for the first time in 18 years.
It was beautiful.
It really was, Suze. I remember driving, I'll preface this, like I really do believe friendships, like the ones that are meant to last,
Yeah.
they'll come in and out. And I have so many like that where there was never any issue. It's just like life happens. And I don't know if it's also just the nature of who I am and also my ADHD, where it's like it is impossible for me to keep up regularly with all of my friends
Right.
and be in communication all the time and all these things. But to me, that always just felt like really natural. And so I just figured like, we'll come back together if that's ever meant to happen. And so we did. And on the way to you, when I was driving to the hotel to pick you up for our hike, I remember getting emotional.
Mhm.
Like, oh my God, I'm going to see Suze. I remember pulling up in front of your hotel and seeing you. And immediately we were both greeting each other with the same energy we had when we were teenagers.
Yeah. It was just like click, click, boom.
And oh man, it was something that I know I like posted like a big sappy like Instagram and whatever about how good it feels to reconnect with somebody who knew you back then at a time in your life that feels so distant. And to hear you say things like you're exactly how I remember you. And like, of course, these things would happen to you. It was like balm for the soul
Right.
because life looks so different. The things that you have gone through, the things that I have gone through in that 18 years, you feel like a completely different person sometimes. And I think so much of the so many of the things that light me up now are things that remind me of who I am, transcendent of life experiences, just like who I am at my core, that same D, who was 18, who was 25, who was 30, who was 36.
Right.
So that's how I felt when I got to see you. But like, what was that like for you?
I was I was overwhelmed with gratitude. So I don't want to jump ahead too much, but I am in a certain 12-step program, and they call it, gifts of the program.
Hmm.
Knowing that I never would have had that opportunity. I never would have gone to Denver probably. I certainly wouldn't have reconnected with you had I been caught up in addiction and just the black hole that I had been living in for a lot of those 19 years in the middle.
Yeah.
So that, that's really all what kept replaying in my mind over and over. Just that in a way, you're a soulmate. And I felt that fire that I hadn't felt in a really long time. And I think you're right. Because our story began at the beginning of us, at the beginning of, who we were outside of, our parents' households.
Yeah.
I think that growth, I mean, the rapid growth we had to go through just to survive in the city, and doing it together. Yeah, it was like beyond nostalgic.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
That's really special to hear you say that. That's also brings me kind of to, it's like a good segue into addiction is there was always, I think, a tie for the both of us and that we were in search of similar things in New
Mm.
York City. And we had traumatic childhoods that we were not capable of fully unpacking yet. I didn't really start drinking until I went to New York. And it's taken me until about the past year to even accept and acknowledge that I had a drinking problem. I
Mhm.
had a binging problem that I had a lot of problems. And if it wasn't one of those, it was something else. I mean, I can laugh about it now because I don't feel so, I don't deny it and I don't feel ashamed of it anymore. But I think there's something really poetic about like we met at a time in our lives where we just needed someone to meet us where we were. I
Yeah.
think you were that person for me, hands down.
Yeah.
You were my person who were like we were at the same place. And then we had to go on our own way. Like we had to go experience these things and experience them independent of each other. But to know that when we came back to each other, it was like, hey, let's like let's compare notes,
Right.
like let's catch up on these 19 years. And as we're comparing notes, we're like, oh my God, like we've been on such a similar journey this whole time.
It's true.
Um, and different in a lot of ways, right? Like it played out differently for each of us. Like, but we both experienced such grief, such life change, so many things that like are so far removed from being 18 years old, right? That it's like I do think that there is a reality where if you and I hadn't had this bond, that those kinds of things can be really awkward to bring up to a friend that you haven't seen in 18 years and you're just like, let's catch up on the
Right.
horrors and the healing. Like some people are just not for that. You know what I mean? Like they're just not down. And it's okay.
And some
But
people are stuck in the middle of it too,
that's true.
you
That's
know?
actually really true. And can't go there.
Right.
Because they're figuring it out themselves. And so taking a step back and being like, holy shit, when we talked, like when we saw each other after all these years, to have such open, honest, loving conversation while we're on this beautiful hike in
Yeah.
Evergreen for hours. Like, what a blessing. That was my feeling too. I remember driving home after that night being like, oh my God.
I was just on cloud 9.
Yeah. I want to talk about like when was the moment that you decided you needed help? When was the moment that you actually, I'll take it a step further. When was there a defining moment that you decided that you even had a problem?
That's a great question. So, backing up to, New York, I remember being sanctimonious about not drinking. I would dabble here and there, but for the most part, like I'd grown up with a lot of addiction in my family and I was like, not me, it's not going to be me, right?
Yeah.
Lots of people say that,
We're
right?
idealists when we're
Yes.
young.
Exactly. So it really wasn't until I got back, I moved back to Georgia, graduated college, um, kind of like fell in with the wrong crowd. That went on for quite a while. And there really weren't, major problems with that. Like it hadn't progressed. But,
Right.
alcoholism is a progressive disease, right? And I just remember, well, I had gotten a DUI. And
Hmm.
I was like, that's it. You know, I'm not going to drink. This is clearly a problem. And then I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I realized I couldn't, but it still went on for a couple of years. I just accepted it. And when my mom got sick with pancreatic cancer, that's really when I fell into the hole because I really couldn't talk to anybody in my life about what I was feeling, what I was going through. They would just tell me that she was going to be okay. As I see her withering away into, this frail, you know, skeleton person, I know that's not true. And,
Yeah.
when it's your mom, like,
Yeah.
um, so, uh, after she died, I really beat myself up and, I used alcohol to punish myself
Yeah.
and get deeper and deeper into that hole. And I guess what made me want to get help the first time was a dream I had where my mom shows up. I get really emotional and I go, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm just bawling, crying. And she goes, For what, honey? And I mean, nothing else needed to be said. I just knew that she forgave me, and
Yeah.
now it was time to forgive myself. And so I don't know if it was the next day or the next week, but that I kept stewing on that, and I realized that this wasn't what she wanted.
Yeah.
She doesn't want me to grieve this way. I'm slowly killing myself. I didn't want that life for myself. So, yeah, so I asked my dad to pick me up and take me to a rehab. But I accidentally overdosed.
Oh, serious.
Yeah, and
I didn't know that.
woke up in the hospital, and they said, "Do you want to go?" And I go, "Yep, take me away."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah. I think
And
it's
for,
really important.
yeah, well, it's brave and courageous because I think there's so much shame in
Yeah.
addiction. And I remember growing up, I had a very complicated upbringing. And I remember growing up hearing my parents talk about addicts like, well, at least there's no addicts in our family. Like there were a lot of things in our family that were not healthy, that were abusive, that were like, but you grow up thinking it's normal.
Yes.
And what I find is in families, in individuals, even when you realize you have your own things you need to look at, you immediately start projecting
Mhm.
or deflecting, even, right? Where you're like, oh, but at least we aren't X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, your dad's not perfect, but at least he's not an alcoholic and he doesn't beat us and blah, blah, blah. And there was with that, which is like crazy that that's the bar.
Yeah.
But with that, you get a certain idea of what it means to be an addict in your mind.
Mhm.
And I personally did not recognize that I had a problem and denied it, denied it, denied it, denied it until I hit a personal low as a mom going through a divorce where I just literally was in my hotel room one night at like 3 a.m., so I guess morning, in New York City on a work trip and had just made a series of extremely destructive choices for myself
Mhm.
to the point where I was like in a cab sobbing. And I remember the Uber driver just being like, Miss, whatever it is, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Please stop crying. Please stop crying. I wasn't hysterical either, but like he just knew that whatever was going on inside of me was like deep, you know?
Yeah.
And I got into my hotel room and I remember taking my shoes off and actually throwing it at the mirror as hard as I could. Like I just wanted to break everything in that room. And at that point, I think I was like 8 drinks in to the night on like a Tuesday. Like I was there for a work trip and I was like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I'm someone's mom. I'm someone's mom, and I'm in so much pain, and, like, what am I none of this works anymore, like, none of this works anymore, and here I am looking at everybody else around me saying, "That person has a bigger problem with booze. That person has a bigger problem with sex. That person has a bigger problem with spending." The craziest, sneakiest thing about addiction and substance abuse or like those maladaptive coping mechanisms, you're always going to look for somebody who is in it worse than you to set the new low, like the new bar.
Right. And it doesn't matter if it's one drink or two. I believe, if you have to drink every night, there's, or every weekend, there are people who only binge on the weekends. And it's really up to
That
you
was
to, yeah, to figure out, you know, if you can do it, if you can quit on your own, that's really great. But there are a lot of people who can't. And that's where the community really, I mean, that was a big difference because unfortunately, after that incident, I didn't stay sober. And it wasn't until I got to an absolute, I mean, even more bottom than that, emotionally, physically, spiritually, I was just so tired. I
yeah,
was tired of keeping up this, garbage life that I had a choice, you know? I knew where to go. I knew how to get help at that point, and I was just being stubborn about it.
Well, one thing you said to me that is now also filed in those like forever memories that are like, if my mind goes, it'll stay. Can you tell I'm preoccupied with a fear of dementia?
It's girl.
No, honestly, I think it's, and I'm laughing about it. It's like really dark actually, but like
It's
all of my grandparents, or like two of them right now, are really struggling with it. So
yeah.
anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But one of the things you said to me was you can't deprive someone of their low.
Yep.
And God, that hit. Like it
Mhm.
gave me chills when you said it. It gives me chills now because you can't. Nobody can take you off of that train before you crash. And how drastic the crash is up to you. You're the
Yes.
one driving it, you know? But like that, you have to get sick of your own shit enough to want to turn it around. I feel like when, for me, it was nothing short of a miracle, actually,
Mhm.
because when you're so far in the hole, you can't, like, nothing is clear.
No.
Nothing is clear. Even if you see a light at the end of the tunnel, you're like, which way is the end? You know, like, how do I get there?
Absolutely. And I'm a master justifier. I justified it to hell and back. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. One of the things you also mentioned was that people were, I mean, this isn't any knock on any of the people in your life, but like almost kind of gaslighting you about your mom dying.
yeah. Which in hindsight was pretty messed up. I mean, if anybody was going through that in my life today, I'd be straight with them. I'd say,
Right.
you know, if you're not sober, sober up and spend as much time as you can with them because their time here is limited. Soak it up, take them to doctor's appointments, do a puzzle together, watch a stupid movie. You're going to remember that. You're going to remember that you were there, that you were present, and that you offered them something, you know, that will stay with you forever.
Yeah. It's a gift to yourself as much as it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, the reason why I bring up that particularly too is I know that my maladaptive coping with whatever it was, food, booze, sex, money, always came up when I felt like my inner reality was at odds with my outer reality. Like there was a disconnect, like there was an illusion there. And I don't know, like I can just imagine if I were in your shoes, yeah, that would make me want to drink more if people were just lying to my face, you know, if there
Yeah.
was a sense of what's illusion. I don't know, like that actually the my struggles with reality and illusion and my complete inability to accept inauthenticity or lies or a lack of truth, I think is at the core of so many of the destructive things that I've done in my life.
Yes, and that's why the principle of the first step is honesty.
Yeah.
It's being honest with yourself. It's, you know, before anything else, you have to do that step. You have to do that step every single day.
Yeah. And it's not easy. Even still, so I did not find support in a 12-step program. I would call myself sober-ish right now. And, you know, I think for me, I've had this like slow burn fizzle out with my relationship with all of it, actually, all of it. Like I've been celibate the past 8 months because I needed a reset. I knew that whatever I was engaging in with people in my life romantically was coming from a really wounded place.
Yes.
And understandably, you know, but even booze, like I trickled off, you know, and it's getting to that point now where it's almost like, well, why would I,
Right.
when I do drink, why? You know, like,
Right.
is it even making me feel good anymore? And that's kind of crazy too, because like the less you drink, the shittier it makes you feel when you do. For me, it's been kind of like a natural fade out of my life.
Right.
even the way that I spend money, like all of the compulsive binging behavior, which I'll binge on any one thing and then overcorrect, right?
Right.
But it's been so freeing
Good.
because things get quieter in your
Yes.
brain.
It's beautiful. I mean, and that really is a testament to like the spirituality of it all. You know, if you're not giving this, this alcohol, this thing, your time, your attention, your money, your, it's your best friend sometimes. It's kind of gross. And it's, now it's, I just go to a party and I giggle to myself that people are sitting around sipping one, maybe two glasses of wine and, are having a good time. That would be an absolute nightmare for me,
Yeah,
you know?
I do know. I
Yeah.
do know. I think ugh, anyone who's ever struggled with that tension of like, can I just have one?
Right.
And I think that that's the other thing that I've pondered addiction a lot because you will always have a voice in your head that's like, you're not an addict.
Hmm.
Look at that person over there. That's what addiction looks like, you know? And what always brings me back to that is addiction is not a quantifiable disease.
No.
It's actually not about quantity. It's about the chokehold it has on you. And if your brain is like, but can you really survive without this? If it's ever even a question, whatever the thing is, you got to dig into it, you know?
Absolutely. And it doesn't care who you are, where you came from, who your parents are, what color you are.
No.
It has absolutely no record of who you are as a person. I can't say that I've ever lost my faith. And it still, it still got me. It was
Yes.
just a lot quicker than most people. But
Yes.
you're probably saving yourself from maybe 10 years down the line, it becomes a problem. You have people that come to the program at 17 years old, at 80 years old. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's just about when you've had enough and when you're sick of living the way you are. When the pain of staying the same is too great, that's when you're going to make a change.
100%. 100%.
In anything, it doesn't have to be alcohol. If you're unhappy about anything in your life, make a change. If you're not going to make a change, that pain you have to hit your bottom at some point.
Yeah. If you're not, for me, what's always been the catalyst with anything is the quiet murmurs there. And you're like, I don't know, you suppress it, like whatever it is, I don't know if I'm ready to make that change. I don't know if I'm ready to be fully sober. I don't know if I'm ready for this divorce. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is that you're suppressing on the inside. And then it gets to a point for me where I'm like, look at this prison of my own making that I have built.
Yeah.
I feel like a caged animal, and I have caged myself.
Yes.
It gives me chills even saying it because you can't see that. Like,
Right.
you can't see that so clearly. Like, you can have that feral, like, oh my God, like, I hate myself. Like, this is actually when I look at myself in the mirror, like, do I
Right.
say to myself verbally, I hate myself? No. But the way I see myself, the way I think of myself, the way I talk to myself in my inner world, I would say that that person's a bitch if they talk to me that way. Like if it was another person, I would be like, you're an asshole, like why are you even around me? You don't even like me. And that is like when you hit those moments mentally is when you're like, how can you ever unsee it? Right. When you're like,
Right.
God, this isn't how I want to live. I need to be taking better care of myself. And for me, it started mentally and spiritually. And I actually think what got me to a place of being like, I really need to be serious about whether I'm going to be sober is when I actually started accounting for my physical health.
Yeah.
Like in my late 30s, I've ignored that I have a heart condition that I was diagnosed with in the middle of COVID. And because I was in the middle of COVID and I was a new mom and I was going through a divorce, like my physical health, I just was like, cool, I'm not dying. Like I don't have, that's great. A plus. And now I'm just kind of like, damn, I can't even imagine how much damage I've already done on my body through all of the drinking that I did do.
Right.
Because it wasn't light, I wasn't doing it every day. And then I started to really think like, okay, well, if we can't change what I've done in the past, what can I do about the future? What can I do to improve my health for my son? So I'm here longer for him. What can I do to improve my health in my day to day so that I am just more fit and more comfortable in my body and my skin?
And you have to come up with a really good why you do anything. It's why you're passionate about the things you're passionate about, or, why you want to fix something. But going back to hating yourself, I had no idea that I even hated myself. It wasn't until day one of my sober journey 2.5 years ago that I sat down with my husband's childhood mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I know you can't look at yourself right now. And he hands me a mirror. And he said, but I promise you, if you do the right things, you will. And I thought to myself, oh my God, he's right. I can't look in the mirror. I do hate myself, but that was like the catalyst to, because it's such like hate is such an awful, icky, gross thing. I mean, to hate yourself.
Yeah.
How did I even love anybody? How
Yeah.
did I even love my husband? And that broke my heart. Was I just, I was just living in this like lie, all because I was selfish. And, instead of dealing with the things that hurt me as a kid, or, in New York, I was robbed too. I drank over it. I just didn't know that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
It's this wild, like, psychology. And, a lot of it was meant to protect us, like biologically. We have these defects that at some point in time, that's why, step 4 and 5, is extremely important that you write down all the shitty things you've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And then then you go and tell somebody else, and then you go and make amends to who you've harmed. That's why that's so important, because in doing that, in discovering your defects, it's only then that you can start taking those and making them work for good. So these are your defects that, like, at one point in time kept you alive.
Yeah.
But it's not doing that anymore. Now we need to bring it to the light side and, really just soul search.
Ends is really important. And it's actually been something for me that's been really, probably one of the hardest things that I've had to do. Actually, I know it has been. The moments of clarity that I've had in the past 8 months of my own, a dark night of the soul, really. If I could call it anything, it was at like a lot of sitting with myself on the bathroom floor alone in my apartment on the nights that I don't have my son, just like sobbing to the point of dry heaving. Because I think, trauma, especially childhood trauma, is a wild thing. Yeah. You don't realize just how much of a victim mentality is built into that. And it's not wrong, right? Like, to be victimized as a kid in any way is real. But until you face that part of yourself and you accept that part of yourself and you love that part of yourself. Yeah. It's always going to be in the background, calling the shots in some way, telling you that people are just going to hurt you.
Right.
And what that robs you of as an adult is a healthy responsibility and ownership and empowerment of your own actions.
Right.
And so to me, I think I've gone through so many things these past few years in my adult life where I'm like, well, I'm a good person. I am well intended. I have a lot of love in my heart. Therefore, any of the relationships that I've ever had that have been strained or didn't play out the way I wanted them to, or exploded,
Yeah.
I was in the right. You know, I have compassion for that person and I have empathy for that person and they probably owe me an apology, but like, I did the best I could.
Yeah.
And when you get to this point of alignment internally of like, you can start to see yourself clearly. You can start to accept the things about yourself that are imperfect because you're willing to love yourself anyway. It's like these things kind of start to add up to this point of clarity where you're like, fuck,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm capable of hurting people.
Yeah. And how the question is, how were we even supposed to know what a healthy relationship looked like? We had never seen it as
No,
children, you know?
no,
So, and I'm wasn't a part of anyone else's family like that.
yeah.
I didn't
And
know.
not even just a healthy relationship between two people, but also a healthy relationship with yourself.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
I don't know that I had that modeled. I didn't.
Right.
I will say my mom worked so hard to improve her own mental well-being because she came from a super traumatic, like this trauma, the trauma that was perpetuated in my family, many generations. And it has distilled in many ways, which is also wild, and so I have a lot of compassion for my mom because it's like you can only do so much in one lifetime to heal your own wounds and do better for the people in the next generation. But yeah, when you
Yeah.
don't have that modeled for you, what do you do? How do you know anything different? That's why it feels miraculous that you even have that shred of light, like there was an opening in my
Yes.
life, in your life,
Yeah.
that hit at just the right time.
And never forget the most important amends you can make is to yourself.
100%.
Because there's a lot, you know, that you've done to you, that I've done to me, that, little me, teenager me deserves an apology.
Yeah. Yeah. I participated in a sweat lodge ceremony in December with the Lakota people here in Westminster, Colorado, through some friends who knew them. They would host these sweat lodge ceremonies, I think like maybe once a month. And this is my first time my first, and I haven't been since, but it was in December and it was like right before the new year. And I remember going in thinking, okay, all right, I am going to find some forgiveness here. I'm going to forgive my ex-husband. I'm going to forgive my dad. I'm going to forgive, you know, which is already just like how self-righteous,
Right.
because I still had not forgiven myself for anything, and it was just like so classically me to be like, oh, um, I'm gonna absolve the weight that I've assigned to other people and their actions, because those are worse than anything I've done to myself. Like and I didn't really even have that perspective yet. And I
I think
remember,
yeah.
well, I remember going in, sitting there, like there's 4 rounds. The first 2 rounds, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, you're praying the whole time. It's a beautiful ceremony, but it's a prayer ceremony and you sit and it's getting hotter and hotter while you're in there and you're sweating. And it gets to a point where you can't even tell the difference between your tears and your sweat. It's intense, but in such a beautiful way. And then the third round, it was just like so clear,
Uh,
like no, no, no. You need to forgive yourself. That's the real forgiveness you need to find. This isn't about other people because, and specifically there was someone in the ceremony with me who had shared that her ex-partner had tried to kill her. And I remember thinking to myself, well, at least like your ex didn't try to kill you. And then it hit me. I said, no, but you tried to kill you.
Yeah.
And I just broke, like broke. And I think that was like probably one of the most important turning points in my journey of self-forgiveness, because you can't give anybody anything that you don't give to yourself.
Right. But it's also a lot harder to get to that point where you're making that realization that you matter too.
Yeah.
I think as a society, we are kind of told over and over again that other people are more important than
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. But you can't control people, places, or things. That's
No.
just a fact of life. And all you can control is you, your thoughts, actions, feelings, and how you choose to go about certain things in life. How you react to, the shitty parts of the world.
Yeah.
Because they're going to happen. You
Yeah.
know, you're gonna be cheated, you're gonna be, lied to.
And you get to decide how you respond to that, how much energy you give it,
Right.
and it's like once it all clicks. And
Mhm.
for me, I've talked a little bit about this on the pod in previous episodes. For me, also working with psilocybin in ceremony has been incredibly helpful for me too,
Yeah.
because it kind of removed this, you get into these vacuums of thought that are
Yes.
so calloused over the years that it's like you can't possibly break out of it sometimes. Like, you're just like, I feel like I'm almost there. I feel like I'm almost there. And then psilocybin has helped me tremendously with that, to just like break
Yeah.
out and you're like, oh my God, I see it now.
I've been there too, and all I remember hearing was, "Susanna, what the F are you doing? Like, stop stop with the alcohol, stop with the drugs, stop with these, parties. These are not your friends. Like,
Yeah.
go home and do something about it." And I did. I immediately stopped the cycle. Like,
Yeah.
yes, was I still an alcoholic? Yes, but,
Yeah.
that was the first step. That was I think 2 days later, I joined Match.com and met my husband in 2 weeks, but something had to happen, and it just rewired my mind to the point where I wasn't just, like, stuck on the merry-go-round. I found an opening, and I jumped off.
Yeah. Exactly that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's maybe one of the most important takeaways from this conversation is that the change in your life is actually only a series of decisions that you will make. It is never just one decision. It's
Right.
impossible for it to be one decision. There's always a slow unraveling of whatever web of shit, is
Yeah.
like keeping you where you are. And
And
it
thank
does. It
God.
always starts with one little thing. I'm not going back to that party. I'm not going to hang out with that one friend. I'm going to put some distance. Whatever it is, it's like it builds.
Right. Unless you keep doing the same things over and over and over,
Yeah,
the true definition of insanity.
truly,
Yeah.
truly.
But thank God life isn't all because of one decision. I mean, it takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. There really is. And that's why just having people to talk to who have been there, done that is just such a beautiful thing.
It
And
is.
I hate that you had trauma, but I definitely think that we were meant to, connect and reconnect.
Yeah, I do too. And I also hate that you went through the things that you did, but that's like the whole premise of this podcast is when you say the things out loud that you want to keep away from the world that the world has taught you to be ashamed of. Like, even some of the things I've said now on this episode, like, I haven't spoken publicly about in my tight circle of friends, sure, but you find shared humanity.
Mm-hmm.
You connect with people. It's in that tension of life being imperfect and messy that you have to lean on community, right? Like if everything was perfect, if everyone's lives were perfect, we wouldn't have a need to be like, oh my God, I need to brace myself. I need somebody who can catch me when I fall. I need somebody who can tell me it's okay to crumble. I
Yeah.
need someone to show me that they've crumbled and put themselves back together again. Like if we didn't have any of this, we wouldn't need that, right? But we do because we're all imperfect. We're all struggling with shit, you know?
And that's the scary part about social media, though, is that, all we get to see is the pretty perfect family. But to want what others have is not the way.
It's because it's an illusion,
Yes.
because nobody is posting about the affair their husband had
Yeah.
or their wife had. Nobody's posting about their partner passed out drunk. Like nobody
Right.
posts about that. You don't get to see that. So all you see is the polished up version, the performance.
Right.
And man, performance. I actually just went on a rant about this yesterday, specific to social media, because I think that it's really unhealthy for society. Like we as people, especially as it comes down to community, it's like real connection is being replaced by social media. Like somebody gets into an accident or needs a surgery or goes to rehab,
Yeah.
if they post about it, people are like it. Oh my God, sending you love and prayers, whatever. I hope you get better. Or somebody has a baby. Oh my God, like I love your baby. But in the 90s, you'd have to pick up the phone and call that
Right.
person, congratulate them, bring them food, do something to help them. And
Yeah.
now social media just seems like a half-assed pass at like being adjacent to someone's life and calling it connection.
Absolutely. No doubt. I mean, it's making us emotionally immature as a society. And there's nothing that can replace human communication. And
No.
it doesn't matter, like, if you go to an online meeting or something over Zoom, you don't have to be like in the same room as somebody necessarily, but
Yeah,
like talk about what's real. I'm sorry, but like I love the grittier parts of life.
I do too.
I think it's absolutely beautiful and fascinating how people find the will to change, to be better, to overcome something that, you know, you can't even fathom even going through.
I I absolutely agree. If nothing else, even if somebody hears this today who's like, wow, I can't imagine. My hope is that it at least brings more empathy for that person, more compassion that
Right.
that person can then carry out into the world for somebody that they know is struggling with addiction, or childhood trauma or whatever. I truly think shame is one of the most evil things in this world and
Yes.
is the root of so much evil. Because and I'm not talking about guilt, guilt is different. Guilt tells us when we've actually done something to hurt someone, like, hey, hello, like you do you have empathy, like you should feel bad about that, right? But shame is different. Shame tells you you are not like the others, you need to keep this hidden away.
Yes.
Nobody will ever understand, and this is never going to be something that will be a positive thing to share with the world, and that is just not true. And I think if you keep hiding shit away, it just compounds and it makes it worse. And you make more destructive decisions for yourself and for the people around you. And that's how things spiral.
Yes. I wish I had my therapy folder with me because just yesterday, my therapist wrote out, I did this big long checklist thing, right? To find out what my triggers are, how it makes me feel. So you've got these, 3 columns, and the way I'm currently handling those things,
Hmm.
they just bring me back to how it made me feel that this thing was said or that bad thing happened.
Yeah.
Because I don't know another way to go about it. I'm a very like during conflicts, I get out of there.
Yeah.
I hide, I run away, and there is a way to use that. But currently, it's just the shame and the guilt bringing me back, making me feel all these things. I want these things over here, but because I'm running away, I'm never going to get that.
Yeah.
So you got to do the hard thing, you know? Like this
Yeah.
life isn't supposed to be easy. We're fallible human beings. Shit's going to happen.
Yeah.
All we could do is do our best.
True.
And you can't sit there and compare traumas just because something worse happened to somebody else, but you live in America and have your own car. It doesn't matter. What hurts you still hurts you.
Yes.
So there's no reason for anybody to, compare notes here.
I think that's a really important point too, because I it's a fine line. It's such a fine line. Actually, one of my favorite books is The Book of Joy. And it's a book not written by like it actually a journalist put it together, but he followed Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama, who are dear friends, or were dear friends, and they spent like a week together, which is insane because they're both global religious leaders and they just did not have schedules that would align, but they were able to be in just spend time like this retreat together even for 7 days, old buddies, and they talk a lot about all these different things, finding joy, finding peace, finding forgiveness. And it's just this, the book is just their conversations on this and how they transcend the differences in their religions, right? And I remember this one story that really stuck with me. The Dalai Lama, I think, was trying to pass a kidney stone or something. And the trek to the nearest hospital, it's like 3 hours or something. Don't quote me on this. You get the idea. And he's in all this excruciating pain. And he's looking out the window, and all he sees is poverty, like kids playing, in acts. They've got, and it's just their lives are not easy. And he said, in that moment, I was reminded that by focusing on other people's pain, my own pain is lessened. That to focus on sending these people love and hope for better health and just putting my energy there helped me feel my pain less, my acute pain less. And I've always thought this way because it's true. There is a level of gratitude that's baked into saying, you know what? I might have burned my life down in almost every imaginable way. I am making about half of what I did a year and a half ago. You go through the list of your grievances, right? Like, I don't have a partner. I don't have whatever. All these things happened to me as a kid, and I'm still, how is this still something I'm struggling with?
Yeah.
But then I remember that there's still so much to be grateful for, because how blessed to have a safe home, how blessed to be able to feed myself and my son, how blessed am I to have people who love me. And so I think, and the reason I say it's a delicate balance is you also don't want to compare notes, like you said, and minimize, right? Like there's such a fine line between minimizing your own pain or like not honoring it, I guess is maybe the better way to describe it.
I think gratitude is one of the most underrated things we can even talk about.
Yeah.
It is so powerful and it can bring you, to so many places, right? I don't know. I keep thinking about me and my sponsor reading the Tao Te Ching together. And, we'll talk about it as it pertains to recovery. But I see a lot of the Bible in there. But, one big concept is just not wanting,
Yeah.
the lack of want, the being grateful for what you have. I mean, it's so simple, but it's hard to do sometimes. It really is, especially when life is kicking your butt.
It really is. I think recently though, having certain things like getting laid off, that was a big one for me because career was always such a huge part of my identity. I measured my success of myself, my worth of myself by my career for so long. And I'm grateful that when that did happen, that's not really where my head was. You know what I mean? Like I kind of already started to decenter my career and my life. I think when you start to the way I start to think of it now is when because I've lost things, right? Like things, material things in my life that I'm like, all right, we're downsizing to this beautiful 1-bedroom apartment that I love. And it might be my favorite place I've ever lived in. And sure, is it smaller than, you know, 300 square foot mid-century modern ranch that I owned 3 years ago with my husband at the time? It sure is smaller than that, but it's also beautiful, and I'm so grateful to even have a home, like, because for a few weeks I was staying with friends because I had no idea, like, what my job situation was gonna look like and
Yeah.
what I would I had to really reevaluate my finances, right? I think since kind of experiencing some of that loss, which again is not even comparable to what so many other people endure, I have really started to think about gratitude in the way of you think you're struggling, look around you. What are the things that if God took it away from you now, who are the people that
Yeah.
if God took them away from you now, that would devastate you?
Right.
Start there.
Yeah.
Those are great places to start with being grateful. And then suddenly you see everything in such a romantic light. You're like, oh my God, like
And then,
everything's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
yeah. Even as a kid, because I used to go to meetings with like recovery meetings with my dad. And it's funny what I still remember from then because, you know, I was a little sponge. I just, I soaked them up and I remember them because they're so important. Like just the idea of, yeah, just other people's journeys and experiences. And uh, I don't know. I always found it fascinating to see like what other people had to go through to get to the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That must have shaped you in a way and your empathy for people to have gone to meetings with your dad and heard those stories.
absolutely. No doubt. It certainly changed my way of thinking. Kind of bursted me out of my little Christian school bubble too, you
Yeah.
know?
I do think everything comes back to our childhoods, right? I mean, science shows that
Right.
so many of the decisions that we make in adulthood come from these wounds or security that was developed. I mean, I don't know many of those people, but I was just thinking that too.
Never heard of them.
I've actually met a few, and
Really?
and when I meet people who are like still going to dinner with their families, and they're like, "Yeah, like I love my parents. We're so close. Like, both my parents are still married." I'm
Oh,
just like, "Tell me more."
yes. Bring me into your bubble. It seems safe there.
But so much of that comes from our childhood,
Yes.
and I was gonna make a point. I lost it in my classic fashion, but anyway,
Can you imagine, your son growing up with no traumas? Like how much stronger he has the potential to be. Because I I don't know. You could totally go both ways still.
yeah,
You could grow up with absolutely no traumas and still be the trauma yourself
yeah.
and put yourself through a whole bunch of unnecessary.
Well, I mean, you bring up something interesting, which is unnecessary. I do think, to an extent, this where if you believe in like karma or karmic contracts or the equivalent of it in spirituality, right? Where even in Christianity, it's kind of like, God has a plan. So you can name it whatever you want, but it's essentially you have a mission in
Yeah.
life. I very much believe one of my main missions in life was to break these cycles. And
Mm.
there were so many heavy, heavy ones that went back on both sides biologically.
Yeah.
Generations upon generations of abuse, of like horrific abuse, of maladaptive behaviors and coping mechanisms, of pain. And I think it all had to play out this way because, as we talked about before, you can't deprive someone of your bottom because your bottom is your main choice point. That is like the biggest choice point you're gonna have. Is like, where do we go from here?
Right. And it's all relative.
And it's all relative. And so in a way, like I wouldn't really change anything. I can't anyway. So like whatever.
At
I
least
don't
you
spend a
said
lot
that.
of time there.
Right. Man.
But I don't know. Do you think that you kind of had to walk it this way?
Yes, 100%. Like even, the first time I got sober, I like knowing what I know now, it was still supposed to happen this way. I was still supposed to come in when I did, get the sponsor I had, which was a miracle in and of itself. Like just total God thing. Like I said, the third step prayer in a big, like thunderous, like thunder just came out of nowhere on a bright sunny day. It was wild. But to me, it was just like, hey, Susanna, you are in the right place at the right time. And you're doing exactly what I need you to do. Sorry you had to go through some shit. And I know I added on to it. It didn't need to be that hard, but
I mean, it's about who you ask, I tend to learn best the hard way.
you need to crank it up to like, maybe an 11. It's
Full send on everything.
right. Yeah. Let's go for it. Just go for it. But hey, I'm alive. And that's, that's important distinction to make too, because a lot of people don't make it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know I talk about recovery, but you can insert life thing in here.
Yeah.
I think everybody could benefit from doing the steps, right? It's all about being honest with yourself, accepting that you're not the center of the universe, that there is something greater out there. Totally takes the pressure off of life in general because it's not all on you.
Yeah.
And then getting help, making a community out of it, and just growing as a human being. Say I'm sorry,
Yeah. I think that's really beautiful. And while I haven't really had a program that has helped me, I've found my way to a similar place, which has really been beautiful, to find community and people who are willing to talk, finding my faith again. I mean, I say again, I've always believed in something bigger, and it's morphed a little here and there, but I've always believed in God, I don't think I think I've always suppressed my connection to God because it can feel a little bit disorienting. Like I have a very strong intuitive force.
You do.
And it's like scary sometimes, like it's not something you can talk openly about to a lot of people. I think people who are really close to me have seen it play out. I'm really grateful for it, but I think fully accepting it as not like, oh, I'm a freak.
Yeah.
And not questioning it either is the other thing, when you have, and I think that's the most, and that's like, that ties it all up. That's your faith. That's your self-love. That's your self-acceptance. That's your self-trust. That feeling inside of you that says, this is the way. I hear you. I hear you when you say, hey, Susanna, you're doing the right thing. Like to be attuned to even those kinds of signs, those kinds of messages, that
Right.
kind of guiding force is so important. to like life in general, to living an aligned life with like whatever the plan is that God has for you. And I think for me, when I've fully accepted that, that's when things started to get really good.
Yes. And I still think you're the center of the universe.
No, bro, it's true.
It's true. You're like a comic book character. Just this unassuming character in life that yeah, there's something to it, man. There's just too many synchronicities for that not to be true. But yeah. It's good to know you don't know it yet.
Yeah. Well, I like to live my life in service.
Yes. And it shows.
And yeah, I don't know. It is funny that you say that though, that I'm like unassuming. I think that's true. I don't think anybody's ever like, I don't think I walk into a room and people ignore me in a way, but I think a lot of people underestimate me or have an idea of me. And then the closer they get to me, they're like,
right.
Are you like a witch? What's happening here?
But I mean, the fact that you're, even, you defy the odds when it comes to what you've been through and your ability to connect with people. I think a lot of people with trauma miss that connection, but you have some crazy spiritual gifts that, I believe that everybody has at least one main spiritual gift. And I mean, we could do a whole nother podcast on that, but I don't know. I think if on one hand, I think your past life or your traumas have made them to where they are now.
Yeah.
So that you can use that to help other people. And I think you're doing that right now.
Thank you, Suze. And you're helping me. We're doing it together.
Yeah, good.
I'm so grateful that we have reconnected. And you are also such a light in this world. And it's a point I don't want to let pass is that when two lights in the world get together, that energy can be felt. And I think that was so evident. We were just two force fields coming together when I pulled up in front of the hotel and picked you up. And I think that we both feel that. And so I just want you to know too, you are such a light in this world and you have such a big heart. I'm so grateful that we're back in each other's lives. And I don't know, I'm really excited to see what this next chapter brings for both of us.
Thank you. I love it. I'm excited. I'm so excited for the future.
Me too. Thank you so much for being on and for being so courageous and sharing your story and having these raw conversations with me.
Thank you so much.
All right. Love you.
Love you.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining me for this intimate conversation on Not Like the Others. If this episode resonated with you, I encourage you to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. You can find links and information about everything we discussed today in the show notes. And if you want to continue the conversation, feel free to find me on Instagram at NotLikeTheOthersPod. Until next time, come find yourself in every story.